What kind of an environment sets your mood? This is a topic that I got out of a Facebook group that I'm in about sexuality and about sacred sexuality, actually. And somebody asked this question, and I loved some of the answers. And I told myself, if we're concerned with this topic, even if just a bit, the topic of atmosphere and environment might come along. And I think it's important to tackle it. So first of all, I want to read you some answers that I got the okay to share. And I thought that they were really beautiful and maybe they'll inspire you. And then we're going to talk about a bit your needs. So first of all, the inspiration part, okay? Somebody wrote, intentional bedroom space, my temple. And they just left it at that. Another person wrote, lighting is the foundation. Curtains, lamps with dimmers. Also, music is a must. A diffuser for oils, open windows for freshness. Somebody can make a list under the video if they want to. Maybe you find other things also. Okay, then the next person continued. Then textures and tidiness. Think variety of silk and soft to fur and velvet on surfaces, including but not limited to your bed. Hopefully you'll have a bigger space that will have more room for just a huge bed. A kink cabinet, perhaps? A sturdy anchor for rope play. A water source, mini fridge or a pitcher, so I never have to leave the room for refreshments. And a piece of art that invokes the feeling that I desire to share, that hangs like a theater backdrop to the scene I bring myself and my lovers while in this sanctuary. Okay, this is somebody who's very sophisticated in intimacy already. Somebody else wrote plain and simple, no TV in the bedroom. I might add to that, no computers or laptops or, well, cell phones in the bedroom, only music players, if you ask me. Another thing, and this one came from a woman, and you're going to see why I say this, and it did come from a woman. A place where I can sound and still feel safe, that people will not take it as an invitation or as a threat, or that someone will protect me if that happens. This is a setup that I have rarely been able to manifest in my life yet. So this person doesn't necessarily want physical things or just artsy things. She wants to feel safe, that she can make all the sounds she wants to, and nobody else will judge, feel invited, or feel threatened by it. And living in an apartment building still, I can tell you that the phonetic isolation, I have really no idea how to translate that in English, is really poor. And yeah. Sometimes you don't want others to hear you, or you don't necessarily want to hear your neighbors, because they're not always making juicy sounds, Okay, and somebody else wrote, thinking of the environment that inspires them, clean bodies are my first desire. I do love being clean and fresh, and I love it when my husband is too. Okay. Well, you gotta take some, take them with a grain of salt, I guess. So why is the environment in intimacy important? First of all, although I do work in the personal growth and development field, and there is this wide perspective or widely accepted mentality that you have, mind over environment, meaning you can determine your life and you can overcome the challenges of your environment. Let me tell you that from a pragmatic, grounded, rooted, not to say scientific or medical perspective, there's a limitation to that, okay? We are conditioned by the environment that we live in. And I'm not going to go into why don't you try living on the moon like you live on Earth, because, that's an extreme. I'm just going to say that extreme temperatures are not going to do it for you. Okay? Your body will not be able to function sexually at extreme temperatures. And when it comes to pleasure, this isn't surviving. Pleasure is when you're thriving, when you have all the necessary conditions and you can actually open up and you can enjoy and you can be to a certain degree vulnerable, or you can pay attention to more things. When you're in extreme environments and you have to mind over environment, then pleasure is the last thing on your mind, okay? Survival, getting out of that, winning, fighting, flighting, whatever it is that you react in those moments, that's the thing that your energy, attention, your entire being goes to. So you can't talk about pleasure in those moments. So when it comes to intimacy, it's not mind over environment. It's mind in balance or in tandem with environment. I'm going to say something here that only ladies are going to understand. Me being a super Libra, of course, I'm going to say mind with or in tandem or equal with the environment. But this is also true, okay? Joke aside now, it does matter, okay? It genuinely and honestly does matter that you are in a safe, just like the woman said, and in a balanced equilibrium place for pleasure. Pleasure has its requirements, and that's why this topic I thought was extremely important. So I don't know if you've ever done anything as in an intentional loving space, you know, an intentional bedroom space. The first quote went in that direction, intentional, but it does make sense. If you are ever going to be in love with somebody who you really care for, man, they're gonna light you up, you know, like a Christmas tree. It'll come naturally at a certain point that your love accommodations are actually exquisite. Here's another Libran word, exquisite, okay? Luxurious, whatever that may be to you. For some people, actually might be plants. You know, some people might be turned on to go to the botanical garden in the, where you have the exotic plants. Let me tell you, the temperatures are so high there. It's super hot and it's extremely comfortable. You know, I took a lot of photo sessions in the botanical garden. I actually love the botanical garden. So the inner spaces, a lot. That's what I'm talking about. So some people might actually want in their luxurious, exquisite, succulent place, you know, extremely beautiful and rich and a lot of plants. Or there are these beautiful creative decorations with, what were they called? Vertical walls, I think, or vertical plant walls, where you have moss, which is the softest thing that nature can provide. You can lie on moss. You can have flowers, and you can just, you know, have an entire wall set up with that. That's one of the things that I would love to have in my house one day, not just in my love room, all over the house. Some people will go for extremely lavish and luxuriant furniture. Whatever gets you on, you know, whatever turns you on. So my point is this: you're gonna, at a certain point, you might consider, hey, what is the quality of the experience? And because I know that the experience needs a certain kind of environment, how am I providing for that? Like really, like dive deeper into that. Even if your finances don't necessarily, how do I say this? Can support or hold such a thing, especially now when we're in a recession, let's just call it. This is the time we're in when I'm filming this video. Stuff like this is probably not going to be on your list, I can imagine. However, it might not necessarily be that complicated, okay? Some people might not have these exotic, exquisite, sophisticated, luxuriant tastes or whatever. Some people might just think about what the woman said. Clean bodies, just a place where she feels safe to sound and not feel threatened. Music, just a cabinet so that whatever the room looks like, you have your own place with refreshments. So if you're the kind that spends hours and hours making love, you don't have to get out of the room and out of the mood with that to get yourself some fruit or some, I don't know, ice cream or extremely luxuriant chocolate. Okay, don't get me started here. Okay, so, or other finger foods that are extremely, extremely sexual. And by the way, maybe I'll make a video once on aphrodisiacs. They are in your kitchen, let me tell you, and they are in your health food. But so, a cabinet, a place where you don't get out of the mood, but you get all the juicy stuff that you want and you can just carry on. So have you ever thought about this? I propose that at a certain point you sit down and you let yourself dream and imagine. With some people, it might be dim lights. That's another super exotic thing, dim lights. And perhaps some people don't want to go with the candles, because there's a incendia or a fire breaking out risk there. So maybe some people don't want to bother with that. I did have some experiences with candles burning in all the wrong places. So just dim lights or Christmas lights, the little fireflies that you stick into your, power source, and you just have them the entire night. That's a beautiful way to use lights, by the way. So you can go with, if you're on a budget, you can find the accessible ingredients or tools for you to make your love space, enticing. And if you're the person that has a huge budget, then maybe, you're gonna invest into more exquisite, exotic things. It's worth considering this. Another thing that I would point out here is especially, traditionally, at least in the culture that I live in, it is a tradition somewhat for the man to provide the house and bring a woman into his house. Now, there's one thing here that, me being a Libra and being about equality of rights and all of that, it does make sense when even if you did build that house beautifully and extremely, with all the accommodations, that you allow your partner to have a say, because whatever turns them on, you might actually have some great ideas from the other person. You might give them a little bit of power, speaking of sexual power. Even though they didn't build that house, they might have a saying into, how would I make this place so that I can feel it as my own? Because if we're gonna spend a lot of time here, years maybe, I think in long-term partnerships. So I'm gonna feel that it's also a bit of me here, not just you. So it's important. It's super important to allow the other person that you're bringing into your home, into your crib, into your man cave. No, that place I wouldn't recommend any woman to touch or to ever mess with. So if you have your man cave somewhere in the house, it's yours and yours alone, and hopefully she'll have a she-wolf cave too. I know, I'd love to. If I were to move with somebody, I would need my she-wolf cave. I gotta have that. Otherwise I go ballistic if I don't have a place where it's just my own and nobody freaking bugs me there. That's part of, speaking of what environment turns you on, some people might be territorial. Maybe some women are not into the cat mentality, maybe they're in the wolf mentality. Wolves are territorial. When you bring a she-wolf in your house or a he-wolf or whatever you bring, they might actually need their own space where nobody freaking goes in there, even if it's your house. You gotta honor a few things. And if a person has their man cave, she-wolf cave, he-wolf cave, whatever, then they might actually, that place might be extremely strategic and important for them to be in the mood eventually, because if they have to freak out and just cry, go ballistic, do some beauty things that you don't necessarily need to see, then they might need that space. And though it's not directly involved in your sexuality, it's extremely important actually. It's strategically important. So consider that as well. For guys. For ladies, I don't think you bother with all that strategy. So just, I have a coach's mentality, so I'll look at that as well. And then obviously, co-beautify the place. Libras all the way. you know, bring that person and have them equal rights and have them have a say in everything that happens in that environment, unless they are not aroused by having a say in things and having a sense of equal power or something like that. Some people might not really care about those. So the bottom line here is that you might want to consider not just what you envision, but what the people that you bring into your home envision. And if it's somebody that you're going to bring for long term, they should like their imprint should be there somehow. So there should be room for them to have a say, to contribute, to create, to inspire. It should be in the positive way. It should be part of what gets you guys turned on in creating, and at least in my mind, not just the coaching mind, but my Libra mind. Okay, that's the only video that I'll mention any astrological, I'll make any astrological references. I'm still a woman, guys, so I hope that you understand. Okay, and last but not least, just like with everything else, the space that you're gonna build will have to be maintained. So from a pragmatic sense, it makes perfect sense that you put aside a budget for maintaining it. Just like it would make sense, but this is for a different video, to put aside a budget, not just to take care of your body, because grooming your body is also important for intimacy, but for just, you know, growing in your intimacy. I think a lot of people put money aside for what? For studies, for crisis, for personal growth. But it does make sense to put aside a budget for your intimate life. That's one of the very pragmatic places where people don't, you know, they kind of, because they don't necessarily give once a year some attention to this area in a different way than just having sex or being intimate or whatever. No, just for the sake of growing and becoming even more resourceful. A lot of people aren't turned on by these things. I think there are many sapiosexuals here, so, you know, I'm not going to bring the astrological reference, but if you ever studied a Libra, you will understand that their mind is extremely important and into the process. But that aside, it does make sense for many people to invest in that part as well. So setting aside a budget to maintain the environment that you're in, to keep it beautiful, to freshen it up, to change it, you know, to bring novelty in it as well. Any kind of investment that you have in that is going to be resourceful in the end. So that's why what environment turns you on, I extended it a bit to the attitude, because it's mind with environment, okay? Mind in partnership or in tandem with the environment. So you can't really speak about environment that turns you on without the mentality that will nurture and protect that environment. Me being also an environmental activist, of course, I'm going to look at the love environment protection. So, okay, that's it. So I hope this video, which was a bit chaotic, was resourceful. Guys, if there's anything else that I missed, do let me know. I'm open to constructive, respectful feedback. And ladies, for you, I actually have more than just, you know, ideas with the environment. For you, I have a lot of practices that I can definitely offer. And I encourage you to consider, you know, what I mentioned in the video about that part of investing. I think it's so worth investing in yourself. And one of the things that I did develop was the 5 programs that I have in my Sex Dojo for Women for a lot of inspiration. I guarantee you, you're going to find something there that is going to inspire you, something that you didn't know or you didn't try so far. So check that one out, please. I definitely encourage you to do so that you have less and less stuff to worry about. And part of your sexuality is going to be your confidence. Guys, if you ever encounter any challenges, situations, then I have the online coaching calls that you can take. Those are resourceful, especially for guys. We look at things strategically speaking. So yeah, you're bound to find your own resources into the work that I do. Otherwise, enjoy the love environment discussion and love environment protection. And I'll see you with different videos. Ciao.